Welcome to Sunspot. It's Wednesday, May the 12th. I'm Scott Brooks of the Waxahachie Sun. I'm with the mayor of Waxahachie, David Hill. David,
hello.
Good to see you.
Good morning again. Yes.
Yep. I enjoy these discussions a lot. So thank you for joining us. And as usual, we have a number of things we want to discuss today. Before we get to what we've prepared, I'd like to have the mayor clarify something, and that is that yesterday at the council election, canvassing meeting, a comment was made, a public comment was made by someone that basically said that the city of Waxahachie is not ruled by Texas law as it relates to elections. And that may be an oversimplification of it, but in essence, that was what was said. That's incorrect, and I thought, while most of you didn't probably hear that be said, the concern is, for me anyway, that it will start to be said, and I just want, this is all about truth and clarification, so I thought, Mr. Mayor, you could weigh in on that.
Yeah, obviously we had a special meeting to canvass the votes, but the statement was made during public comments, which we can't address at the time, that we should draw ballots for this runoff election, or draw for places, not ballots, but draw for places for the runoff election, and that the state has no control. It's the person's understanding that the state has no control over our local elections. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously not correct. So I think the idea was that if you have a runoff, we should draw to see who's at what place on the ballot, first place, second place, third place. Right. Since the law says simply that and our charter also says the same thing, we draw a position on the ballot for the initial election. Right. So if 5 people are running, it's 1 through 5, place 1 or 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. If there's a runoff and the 2 top vote getters, all they do according to state law is they assume the same position that they were on the ballot. Right. So if you were number 5 on the ballot and you and the first person for that position were the 2 top vote getters, right. Then you would be the bottom and the other person would be the first place. Right. So I mean, it's just, and I mentioned this to you earlier, that you can look up the Texas Constitution, below that are Texas statutes, and below that are another 500 laws that govern cities, and one of them is local government code. Mm-hmm. And the local government code, when you open that one up, it takes 2 or 3 computers and screens just to see everything that we have to abide by and how we're legislated through that, and every session that we have in Austin adds to that. Right. So it always changes and increases. With our election, we did it exactly the way, and we are governed by the state. Right. They tell us what dates, how many days between certain actions, next action has to happen. Mm-hmm. If you don't do that, then you're in violation of campaign election laws. Yeah. So we don't just sit around and think about these things and write it ourselves. Yeah. Okay. It's well documented.
That's helpful. I mean, just keep in mind, last year the state moved the May election to November because of the pandemic, and has always had a measure of control, lots of control about right. local municipalities. The reason the issue is even brought up is because there's research that shows that the number 1 slot on a ballot has embedded in it, just by the nature of being number 1, an advantage. Mm-hmm. So most candidates running for office want that number 1 slot. There's validity to the research, but just on May 1st, Chuck Beatty, by example, was on the bottom mm-hmm. and had the most votes of anybody in the election. So, you know, you can take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, usually in local elections, small communities like us, first, second position is really not that critical. Right. Because they know you. Right. They know who they're coming to vote for. If you throw in a president on the same ballot mm-hmm. And a couple of representatives and U.S. and state representatives, then people do come in that normally don't vote in the city election but live in the city. Right. And they'll go down straight ballot and they'll hit the first box on every category all the way down.
Yeah.
So that's how we wound up with a young lady last year that got more votes, but was living in Florida at the time
Yeah,
of the
I got
election.
6,000 votes, never campaigned and didn't live here. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's the old thing about making sure you know who's running and who you want to vote for, know
Right,
them.
right,
You know.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all right, good, that helps. So today, I've lived in a lot of places and I've known many a mayor, and I've known those who phone it in, and I know those who work very, very hard, and I am more than happy to say, and I think most of you watching already know this, but Waxahachie and David Hill, as with Kevin Strength, has a very hard-working mayor, and I don't think you sleep that much, and I see you almost everywhere, and know you to be committed to the job. And keep in mind, it's an unpaid job. So, but I thought from your perspective, I would just let you share with the readers or the viewers what life is like every day for a small town mayor. And frankly, Waxahachie isn't that small anymore. It's growing exponentially.
It is growing,
so
yeah.
thought I'd let you just share.
But I mean, it doesn't take long. I mean, I just wake up in the morning like most people,
Yeah.
and start my day. I go to Donuts Plus. I see Miss Heidi, and I get a pig in the blanket and some chocolate milk, and that kind of starts my day out. If I see somebody there that I know, I'll sit down and have a casual conversation. But usually we either have planning and zoning. I mean, there's 23 different committees and commissions that we deal with in the city. I try to get to as many of those as possible, just to sit in and see what's going on, just with that. Then we have DRC meetings, which are development meetings with builders and developers that come in, and you like to participate in those things, see who's coming to town, what's coming. I like to meet with all department heads as often as I can, sit down with Michael as often as I can. Right. So in a 5-day work week, I go to the city hall a lot and just talk and discuss and see what's going on. I was raised up in construction, and an old friend of mine that got me started and helped me in the first few years told me that you get what you inspect, not what you expect. So I've always embraced that. Yeah. It's a very simple philosophy. Yeah. So I drive the streets of Waxahachie. I look at the projects that we have that are in progress, see how they're going. Because I've been in construction, OSHA, and EPA, and things like that are forefront in my little mind. So I see things that are a violation, and I may even I'll either call Michael and tell him, or Tommy or somebody, and tell the contractor that they need to get their trench safety updated there. Right. They're terracing. They're not terracing. They're dirt out the way they're supposed to. And it's maybe it's just quirky for me to do that, but I see it, and so I just tell people. Yeah. But I'm going out to Saddlebrook. We'll talk about that in a minute. We have some people that were concerned about some services that they're not receiving. So I asked them to get a group together. We'll meet out in the middle of the street and talk about it. Right. Yesterday I had an email from a fellow that was upset about trash over in Bellevue. Went out and talked to him from about 8:30 to 9:30 in the middle of the street about his picking up his limbs and things like that. Yeah. Turned out he was a wonderful guy. We had a very good conversation about just a myriad of other issues. But it started out there. So other people do it differently, and that's fine. I do what I do, and enjoy it. Yeah.
So I would say, again, on the campaign trail, a lot of things are said by candidates. One is recently that people don't know the mayor or the city council or what have you, and again, that's a bit crazy, frankly. I would just say to you watching, if you have an issue, and you may kill me over this, but if you have an issue and you want somebody to listen to you, or you want it addressed, call City Hall, ask for David Hill, the mayor, ask for Michael Scott, and you won't be sloughed off. Something will be done. It may be a no, can't handle that one or correct that one, or that's a TexDot issue or whatever, which we're going to talk about in a second. But simply make the effort, and I promise you will get a response that will surprise you. as David just said, people have an issue, and what I found in the mayor is that he will personally go there and, as he just mentioned, and talk to the people involved.
Yeah. A lot of people think we have an office at the City Hall, and the mayor doesn't have an office. We don't have an office.
Yeah.
I mean, the City Council doesn't have an office. We have one place that was designated years ago for mayor, but that's now because of the overcrowding of staff, and as much as we're growing with no room,
Right.
they have more meetings in there on a daily basis than the mayor ever did. Again, it's non-paid, so we office out of our truck,
Yeah.
our house, or wherever we are at the time.
Right.
So if you think you're going down to the City Hall to see the mayor, he's not there.
Yeah.
But he's certainly you can contact emails and phone numbers.
Well, call to City Hall, they'll find
yeah,
you.
Absolutely.
Somebody will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's segue then to the you mentioned
Saddlebrook,
Saddlebrook.
yeah.
So many neighborhoods, subdivisions, whatever you want to call them, have HOAs. They have groups. If they don't have HOAs, they have issues. And in this case, Saddlebrook, which is out on 287, kind of out there, kind of by itself in a way, I guess, but has contacted the mayor about some issues, and I thought it would be a good example of how things kind of flow. So
Yeah.
weigh in on that.
Well, I got an email from some people out in Sagebrook. I mean, Saddlebrook. Saddlebrook. Had several concerns. When I read down through the list, most of them are really not issues that the city can do anything about. In the beginning, when the subdivision was started, I think it's 2000, or maybe it was 14 years ago when the actual first home was built. They started their HOA. They've got about 300 or 400 homes built in there now, and I think it's projected to be 900 total.
Okay. Yeah.
So most of the issues are things that are totally out of control of the city. You have a train track that runs down 287. The whistle blowing irritates some of the people in the community. I've got one that's 300 feet from my back door, and it irritates me.
Yeah.
And I can stand in my backyard and yell at it. I can shake my fist at it. But until we do a quiet zone or something like that and spend $10, $15 million, that train will run through there, and it was there when I got here.
Yeah.
So, and I think this train is actually, it's in the county. It's not in the city limits, so we have nothing to do with that whatsoever. Flight patterns in and out of airports, we don't control that. That's FAA. So really the only, if it's Encore and electrical service, we can address issues like that because we have a good relationship with Encore. Water, that's us. We run water to the facility, so if they're experiencing low water pressures, which they shouldn't, we just ran a new 12-inch and 8-inch line out there to loop that place. But during the construction, I think the water was on and off several times, and maybe that's where the complaints are coming from. But most everything else is state regulated or county. It has nothing to do with the city. I was asked if we could put a new tower, a telephone tower. We don't do that either.
Right.
T-Mobile, I think, came in 2 years ago and got a permit to put one up, but it hasn't even installed it yet.
Yeah.
So AT&T handles phone service. Most of City of Waxahachie is hardwired, which was the copper buried wire for telephone. They did come in and do some fiber optic overlays, and they have a budget every year that they appropriate money to go into different neighborhoods to do that overlay. I think your neighborhood got some of it. Garden Valley Estates got a little bit of it. Some people said they didn't want it because it's going to mess up their front yards.
Yeah.
And now they're saying, hey, we do want it. And AT&T said, well, we were there. We had the money set aside, and now we've used it on another place.
Right.
So will they ever get out to Saddlebrook and get all that straightened out? Eventually, yes, they will.
Yeah.
Does it take time?
Sure.
It's annual budgets.
Right.
And I don't know anybody that ever gets enough money to just do everything they want to do for the rest of their existence.
Right. So today's Wednesday. This is released and aired on Friday. But with all that said, your plan and what you're going to be doing is going out there this afternoon or this evening.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah. The lady that contacted me, I guess again she thought we had an office at the city hall, and I told her we didn't have any space there. I said just get a group, whoever they are. So I don't know how many will be there. We'll meet on Pony Court in Saddlebrook, and we'll just talk.
Okay.
I'll tell them what we can do, what we can't do, and hopefully that's sufficient. I mean, if they've got a legitimate grievance, then we need to take care of it.
Right.
Some of it we can't. We have no control over.
Okay.
So, but we'll do everything that we can.
Okay.
Sound barrier. I think this is one of the things.
Sound.
They ask about, the traffic noise.
Right.
I mean, live on Marvin, but
Yeah.
I mean, the city wouldn't put a sound barrier up. TexDot may. I mean, if you ever, well, this is kind of a sidebar, but people always say, well, the city's not planning for the future and not planning out, more than just 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
I've heard that several times on Facebook by people that are running campaigns
Right.
to be on city council.
Yeah.
So I was sitting in a meeting the other day with TexDot, and our local engineer. We're going on across almost every issue that TexDot's going to be doing with the viaduct getting open. We're going to open up traffic on the 18th on one of the viaducts on the Monroe side, and then start tearing down the other side. And we're talking about flyovers over on 287 and 35, feeder streets on 287, all the way to Ennis from 360, and how all that stuff is going to work. Butcher Road overpass. So some of these dates are, engineering starts in 2022. They'll let it out on 2023. Some were 25, 26, 27, 28, and then 2045.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got things, Regional Transportation Commission and COG, working with the small communities like Waxahachie, go through this planning, and they queue these things up. I mean, we're limited as far as money for that as well.
Yeah.
So you've got to plan far out,
Yeah.
because there's easements, right-of-ways, and all kinds of things that have to be accommodated.
Yeah.
So when they say that we don't look forward and into the future, I don't know, maybe 25 years is not far enough into the future for them, but that's just one aspect.
Yeah.
We're looking at, we're doing a comprehensive plan right now that involves the city councils and planning and zoning and 5 members from the community that are on the committee, and that will determine land use for the city of Waxahachie for the next 10 years, 15 years out.
Well, I'm pretty certain we won't be here to see what happens in 2045. But whoever is may be dealing with flying cars and construction in the air, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And, I say that tongue in cheek, but on one hand, on the other hand, you really never know.
Well, if GM's going to go all electric in 2030,
Yeah. So.
I'm not sure why we worried too much about gasoline today, but we still have to run something on something, and
Right.
whether that, who knows?
But the point is that.
But you do need highways.
Yeah, the city
transportation.
looks as far as necessary out into the future. Saddlebrook is just an example of a group of people who have issues they'd like to discuss, and in this case, the Mayor Hill's going out to see the folks in a cul-de-sac. If there are similar issues for your neighborhood or whatever, there's an example of how it gets handled. I live across from Capizano's, which I hope opens this century, but we wanted the community wanted a road from our neighborhood to North Grove, and while I didn't participate in any of that, there are others who did, and the city put together in a relatively short order a temporary road that will at some point there'll be permanent roads there, but it was another example of how something was done by the city to be able to help residents with a rather important need, obviously. Mm-hmm. So that's how this works. So you heard the mayor say that there are certain things or issues, matters, what have you, in the city that residents or citizens want addressed. And it's important because this is a misnomer or a bit of, not confusion, but it's a not complete understanding that the city has its limits on what it can do about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I would just ask you a question, and then you can say, well, here's the entity that was responsible for it. So if I have, and it may be the city like this one, if I have potholes up and down my street, who's responsible?
Depends on the street, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if it's city streets, it's the city,
Right.
obviously. If it's TexDot, which is a 77, that's Elm, 813, 879, 878, 66, 1466, every place if there's a light, traffic light on it,
Right.
it belongs to the TexDot.
Okay.
So if you have issues with traffic lights, that's TexDot.
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't call the city, and the city will certainly make a call if it's proper to do that at the time.
Right.
Or you can call TexDot as well.
Okay. So
And they have a website. You can go to the website and you can click on where there's an issue and complaints
Right.
with TexDot.
okay.
Yeah.
So if I know there have been probably countless calls or emails made to City Hall or to you about sidewalks. So obviously that's for the most part, depending on what needs to be done to them, I guess, but that's a city issue.
In a way.
Okay.
In a way, yeah. Usually in a subdivision, sidewalks are put in by the developer.
Okay.
The ones we put on Brown Street, actually, we had to get permission from TexDot to do that. Now we're going to do some on Main Street, which is also TexDot. That's 287. And we have to get permission to replace those there. But like I've told everybody, the city never had a sidewalk program until about 3 years ago.
Right.
And we wanted to try to get some connectivity to be able to get down off of Peter Street and Wyatt Street and be able to get people walkability to the downtown area.
Yeah.
And also food deserts and things like that where you don't have a walkability to a grocery store. And we have issues with that. So trying to get sidewalks put down, and it's still, I mean, we're spending $600,000, $700,000 a year putting in a few sidewalks.
Yeah.
You can imagine the expense if we just said we're going to put sidewalks everywhere. I mean, it would be millions of dollars. So we kind of go out and survey where we need to make the connections. Some sidewalks are there. Pieces are deteriorated and broken up or missing. We can fill in temporarily until we can actually afford to do the entire length of a sidewalk down the street.
Right.
But we've developed a plan, and it's on our 5-year CIP, capital improvement program. So systematically we'll go through and try to get as many as we can get done in the foreseeable future. Our new streets we put in, our corridor restorations, where there were no sidewalks, now you're getting sidewalks, like on Cumberland. When we finished up Cumberland, they never had sidewalks in Bellevue. So now they've got street lights, new concrete, curb gutter, all new utilities, and we'll do all those streets over there in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
But you get sidewalks started, and then it continues throughout the whole process.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And we're doing a shared deal with people as well. I think it closed for this year, but we were going to split the cost. If you had a sidewalk on your property that you want replaced,
right.
we got a per square foot price from a contractor that said that they would come in and do that as well for the city's price.
Okay.
So we would share the cost with that.
With the homeowner?
Yeah.
Okay. So CareFlight flies over my neighborhood 3 or 4 times a week, it seems like. Actually, we don't ever think about that sound is annoying. We actually think about, my precious wife does for sure, thinks about who's in that helicopter.
Right,
And,
yeah.
a quick prayer goes up because somebody is in need of CareFlight. But if I wanted that subsided or slowed down?
Every second that CareFlight's in the air is life. So you want to reroute them around your community.
Right.
That's probably not going to happen with CareFlight. They're trying to get from point A to point B in the direct.
way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You had mentioned the train, and it is. I mean, we sometimes will say it while we're talking here that it's 50 yards right there.
Yeah.
That's a northern. Is it
BNSFF.
Yeah. city doesn't have anything to do with the train. Let's see. So
Now we priced a quiet zone back when Ron Wilkinson was mayor. I think it was $9 million then to do 24 or 25 crossings. Quiet zone simply means, all of the arms are still there. He just doesn't honk his horn.
yeah,
And they come in and do some other stuff to keep you from crossing over to get between the arms to cheat.
yeah,
And try to make it, and the train comes through, and so it can't honk its horn. That was $9 million. Several years ago, we had it repriced. 3 years ago, when I asked for it, it was 13 million for the same crossings. We could reprice it today and be 15 million. So nobody.
Even quiet's going up in price, huh?
Yeah, but nobody. It's hard to get 3 million to a street.
Yeah.
Without issues.
Yeah. So,
$15 million, most people would say, hey, I don't hear it anyhow.
right.
I don't want to spend my money for that.
Right. Going back to Saddlebrook, although it pertains to this, there was, if the bond had passed, there was going to be a new elementary school out there.
Yeah.
That may come up in your discussion tonight. Obviously, school structures and school zones and that sort of thing, that is the school district's purview, if you will,
Right.
and not the city's.
Right.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it is. And the way we participate, we have joint meetings with the school board.
right.
So they're telling us what their demographers are telling them.
Yeah.
And we're looking at where our developers are coming in to develop land.
Right.
So when we're sitting down in a DRC meeting, a development meeting with builders, we'll say that they're going to build 700 homes, so we need room for 2 elementaries. And that's when we get that dedicated land that the city does not buy, and then that's dedicated land the school doesn't have to buy. So we negotiate that through our plan developments that we do with builders.
Okay. So the point of this is to say that if you are out there and are frustrated about something related to your city, again, reaching out to you can reach out to the Sun, certainly Scott at waxahachiesun.com or 972-316-7707, and we will communicate with the mayor and the city. We do that almost every day anyway. But if you need an answer about who's in charge or the responsibility, feel free to just call City Hall. They will answer it, and if it's the city's responsibility, and it's not that the city's not looking to have responsibility, it's just that laws prohibit the city from doing things related to, by example, farm roads that are owned by the state or the interstate or things of that nature. So the city knows what it's responsible for and what it's not responsible for, and it's not a dereliction of when you hear we cannot do anything about that. It is a law. So the city is helpless to be able to do certain things. Can't stop the train from blowing, can't stop the helicopter from flying, can't change flying patterns of going into left field, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, but it's important that you know that there, despite what you might hear from some people from time to time, there is a profoundly receptive city and mayor here in Waxahachie. And I don't say that because I happen to like the mayor. I say that because I've experienced it and am grateful for it, and I think you will experience it and will be grateful for it as well. Okay? So, 2 more topics and we're done. Discuss the relationship between council and P&Z, planning and zoning. So if I'm a developer, I go to P&Z and I submit something, and P&Z approves it or disapproves it, what happens then?
Yeah, well, normally if a developer comes in, he's already secured a piece of property. It has current zoning already on it. Excuse me. You'd probably get a meeting with the DRC. You'd sit down, and they would have all department heads that are necessary that are going to be a part of that development going forward. They'll tell them, our city staff will tell them what they need. They'll get all that together and submit it to planning and zoning. So it's a 7-member board. It'll go to planning and zoning. They will look at it and make sure that it meets all the ordinances that we have. And then if they pass it, it comes to city council. and the city council can vote yes or no.
Right.
Planning and zoning is a recommending board,
Right.
so they, but they have to maintain the book. I mean, that's what I tell everybody. The book has everything in it that plat has to look like, and they can't do a variance. They can suggest it, or the person can ask for it and then want to go to the city council. But basically, if you get through planning and zoning, you've checked all the boxes off according to what the city requires.
Right.
And a lot of that is state regulated as well.
Okay.
We don't have control over all that, and our charter allows us to do certain things, but basically that's how it works.
P&Z meets every other
Tuesday, yeah,
night.
Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
Yep.
And that's well, they live stream that as well, and of course you can go back and look at the video later if you want to.
Exactly. Just a curiosity, I guess. When, in your experience, when P&Z approves something, how often have you found that the council will approve it, accept it and approve it, or reject it, send it back, whatever? I mean, is because of is the relationship strong in the sense that council trusts and believes P&Z's done its work, and that if they've approved it, then we should be approving it as well?
I go to P&Z meetings.
Okay.
That's Mary Lou Shipley is the liaison, and she has to go to every single one. But I go in there at least once a month and listen to, or I watch it at the house, one of the two.
Right.
You have to trust your zoning boards. You have to trust all the boards and commissions we have in the city.
Right.
Because that's, like I said, 23 of them, that's probably 250 volunteer people that give their time to go down and do the city's business.
Yeah.
You couldn't pay them. The city doesn't have enough money to pay that staff.
Right.
So when planning and zoning, and when you look at the people that are on planning and zoning, they've got tenure, experience. They know what they're talking about. The chairperson has done some development and still is active in the business. So you've got some people that deal with that on a daily basis in their own business.
Yeah.
So when they sit down to look at new stuff coming in, I would challenge almost anybody if I just had a final plat and I laid it out on the table, and I told you that there were 10 items on that plat that are incorrect.
Yeah.
And for a novice just to walk in and tell me what they were, couldn't find it.
Right.
Yeah, it's almost like those pictures say there's 10 things in that picture right there.
Yeah.
I get 5 and I still hadn't found the rest of them.
Yeah.
If I'd drawn
That's
the
when
picture,
you Google it and say, well,
but if I'd drawn the picture, I would have known where they were.
Exactly.
And the same thing with the plat. Once our planning and zoning has gone through that stuff, because this goes through all of our staff. Several meetings take place. It goes through Sean, our director of planning and department. And once his staff gets through with it, and it goes to planning and zoning, and they've reviewed it, and it may come back and forth to planning and zoning 2 or 3 times.
Right.
So one development does not just come through one day and make it through, and everybody says, okay.
Yeah.
I check it off and send it to the council, let them vote it yes,
Right.
without just a whole bunch of stuff going
Quite
on.
the process.
A lot of eyes looking at it
Right.
and making sure everything's correct. So.
Okay. All right, good. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to discuss with the mayor is, as we've said before, not everybody can get to a city council meeting or a planning and zoning meeting, and this holds true for the school board as well, but we're talking about the city. As publisher of the paper here, I oftentimes, for various reasons, don't go to council meetings, but every Tuesday following the Monday upon which there was a council meeting, I watch it. And it's very easy to hear, it's very easy to see, and I can speed through, go back, whatever. And our residents should be aware of that. So I thought I'd let you just share with them how they can do that.
I do, same way I do it. I go to walksahatchee.com.
Yeah.
It pulls up the home page. On the home page, there's, I think, 4 little green boxes on that screen, and one of them says agendas and videos.
Yeah.
You click on that, and then you'll see it says, if it's live, that on a Monday or a Tuesday, you just click the live button on the next screen. It's 3 clicks.
Right.
To get to it. Click live and it'll pull up planning and zoning or city council.
Right.
If you want to go to 2018, you can go back 4 years and see the agendas and the minutes. I think 2019 is when we started video and live streaming council and P&Z. So in 2021, that'll be almost 2 years, full years
Right.
of videos that are archived there. So just click on the whatever green line is there, City Council, Planning and Zoning, DRC, or whatever,
Right.
and that pulls that stuff up, and
Okay.
you can look at it.
Yeah, so again, along with that, so you got a screen with the video and the audio, and then next to it is the agenda. And so you can follow along and see what is being requested or in front of the council. You can hear public comments that people are making, which are quite interesting, sometimes entertaining. But you get a sense of council
Right.
and the things that are on their table, as it were.
Yeah, and, you know, a lot of people always say, well, obviously the council just voted yes for it. And, like that's all we did.
Yeah.
I mean, what they don't know is that it's been 6 months of different meetings and working up to that one moment where we all say, are there any other comments?
Right.
And there are none. Public hearing is closed, and entertain a motion. So to get to that process has already taken, in some cases, Emery Lakes, 2005 to 2021, 16 years
time,
to get to the point where we said, are there any other comments? And the room's silent.
Right.
So, and we've had many that have come through that we've said, are there any other comments? And there were a lot of comments, and a lot of them were voted no, because the community came out and said that is going to ruin us, and we cannot handle the traffic, we don't have the infrastructure, or whatever the problem is.
Right.
So we listen to what our community says.
Sure.
We don't just run down stuff down their throats. I have neighbors that walk up to my front door and knock on it,
Yeah.
and say that I don't agree with this, and I need
Right.
to talk to somebody.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's available for, and you can get to it with 3 clicks.
Yeah,
to watch
it's simple.
videos.
If I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for today. Again, want to remind you that we release these. They come to you, I should say, on Fridays at noon. And I want to remind you, too, that you can write scott@waxahachiesun.com if you have any concerns or questions that you want me to talk with the mayor about. We have plenty to talk about going forward. This is designed to be even more transparent and more informative than before. So I'm Scott Brooks. Thank you, Mayor, for joining us.
Thank you
This
again.
has been Sunspot. We'll see you next week. Thank you.